All right, again, I'm Don, alcoholic. I love that sound, man. You guys remember Cheers?
Yeah.
I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be Norm. I tried so many years to be Norm because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be recognized. And I tipped a lot of bartenders for decades and never got there until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. And then this is where I found it, man. This is where I found recognition. This is where I found a home. This is where I found love, compassion, tolerance, patience, honesty. You know, all the cool things in life that we look for. And I love it, man. I love all you guys. I love being here. I love sitting up here because I get to see everybody. And I see a lot of faces I haven't seen in a while, you know, and it's great to see people come back to the meeting. And it's just a joy to be able to do this. My sobriety date's July 17, 2013. So I got like my sponsor would say, I've got a solid 9 years. I don't have 10. I'm not coming up on 10. I got a solid 9. And that was done just like Ron said, you know, a day at a time. I woke up today sober. And hopefully everybody else here did too. And that's all we have is today, man. We've made it through the day so far. You know, and this is where I belong on a Wednesday night. I belong in this meeting. I do. And you know, congratulations to anybody that took a chip. Happy birthday, Ron. That's awesome. And I just love coming back. Real quick, one thing I love doing is I get the opportunity to probably lead a meeting once a year. And if you've got over a year and you've never led a meeting, get off your ass and lead a meeting. You know, because what it does is it reminds me where I came from. It reminds me of that feeling, because I have to go through it in my head because I know what I need to talk about when I'm up here. But it reminds me of the pain and the agony and all the shit I had to go through to get here. But the last 9 years have been incredible, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. So if you haven't led a meeting this year, you know, lead one. They're not, you know, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's very simple, and it's part of your sobriety, part of my sobriety at least. So I remember a guy saying in this meeting a while back, talking about his past, and it was basically, you know, he drank too much, he fell down, he couldn't get up, and then he finally asked for help. And that's how I could sum it up. Except I stayed down for a long time. You know, like a lot of people, I started drinking in middle school. Walking to school one day, found a bottle of Boone's Farm on the side of the street, you know, tucked in I grew up in Washington State, and they used to pile your grass clippings up and everything else in a big pile, and you'd burn them later. Well, we were walking to school, and some guy had stuffed one in there for somebody else to find, and we found it. So we went to middle school on Boone's Farm. I don't remember the flavor, but I remember we drank half of it, and that was the start. I didn't have that big awakening like, oh, I got to have this again. It was cool, you know. And we stashed it in the cemetery right before the school. And when we went to go get it, somebody else had found it, so we passed it along. You know, we forwarded that Boone's Farm to somebody else. Yeah, being of service. Even at 12 years old, I was being of service. So, but that started the journey. And then from there, you know, it was just chasing the kegers. I was always a beer drinker, chasing the kegers in the wheat farms, and we used to gather in granges out in the farm and drink. And then, you know, I was off and running, man. My goal in high school was to be able to drink a 12-pack in one sitting, and I accomplished that one time. But I didn't know what a blackout was until I came into AA. And then I realized every time I drank, I blacked out. And I woke up in some strange places. And I did that up until I got sober. You know, Mark and I like to joke about, you know, drinking in the garage, because that's where I drank, was in the garage, because I couldn't be around my wife, so I was always out there doing something. And I woke up many a time on the garage floor at 3, 4 in the morning with a cat sitting on my chest or something, you know, crazy. But you know, the one thing I don't know how it happened, but it was like a, you know, flick of a switch. Everything goes good until it goes bad, right? And then once that first bad thing happens while you're drinking, they just pile on after that, and that's what happened. And it just kept, shit just kept piling up, and I just kept not wanting to deal with it. And I had a drawer, when I finally got separated from my wife, I got a DUI driving back to my aunt's funeral. I grew up with them, and I was doing 125 through Oklahoma City, you know, with a beer in my lap and an empty six-pack over here, and got pulled over. You know, I was wearing shorts with no underwear because I pissed my pants about 6 hours ago. Didn't want to stop, just fuck it, you know, and because that's what we do, right? I pulled over long enough to change clothes and get back in and take off. And so got pulled over, of course, got thrown in jail, missed the funeral, but no big deal. It was only the woman that raised me, you know. No big deal that I missed her funeral. And I called my wife and said, hey, I got a DUI. And she goes, okay, don't bother coming home. And I said, okay. So I threw away my wife and kids for alcohol. And I drank hard for the next year and a half. That was 2012. And then that's when I was telling you the wheels started coming off and things got worse and worse and worse. And I kept thinking I was going to get it under control, and I never did. I kept dreaming, you know, tomorrow I'm going to figure this out, figure out how to quit drinking. And I always ended up in the bar and just started missing work, which I'd never done before. Lying, cheating, stealing, everything, you know. Sleeping in my car for 3 months. I thought that was cool. I'd end up at 2 in the morning. Listening to country music and crying. Man, this is cool. Oh, this is an awesome life. And then I woke up one morning and somebody had written "loser" on my windshield. And I was like, you fucking bastard. And then I realized I am a loser. You know, I was a loser. So that feeling, you know, and we've all had it. And if you had, you know, if you're sitting here new and you've got that feeling while you're sitting here, you know, we understand it. We know it. And it's the worst. I don't want anybody to feel like that ever again, the way I felt. And so what I did is I walked into Los Encinas Hospital. And, you know, that's the proudest thing I could have ever done. And I'm still proud of that today, is walking into a rehab center and giving up, surrendering, saying, I'm done, I need help. And I did need help. And because I had pretty much lost everything. I still had a job and a car, but that was about it. Didn't have any friends. Because we all know, you know, our friends just kind of disappear when we start going through that last phase. And, you know, we don't have anybody but ourselves to, in country music to, you know, listen to. But, so anyway, that, once I walked in there, and I've talked about this before, where that big wooden door shuts, and the lady asked me, can I help you? And I was like, oh, fuck, thank you. You know, that was the sweetest words I ever heard. And she really meant it, and I really meant my reply, which was, yes, I need help. And the door shut, and it just kind of sucked all the shit out of me. And that was where I surrendered, and that's where, you know, recovery started. And that's where I had hope. That's where I found hope, was in that room. And I sat down and I cried. And I remember a girl sitting there, a young girl with a little teddy bear. And she, you know, she was all freaked out and stuff. And I just remember sitting there thinking that, you know, we're the same right now. I'm no different than anybody else that needs help. And that's the way I looked at it. And I started to listen after that. I did exactly what they told me to do. I didn't fight it. I ceased fighting anything or anyone. I hadn't even read that yet, but I had ceased fighting anyone or anything, and started going to meetings. Went to that meeting at Thursday night meeting, and I'd gone to that meeting before, and I remember Tom sitting up against the wall with Patrick, you know, leaning back on his chair, and I wasn't ready then. That was about 2 years before that, and I'd come in all fucked up into the meeting, and I was there on the wife card. But this time I meant it. I had a little band on my hand. So I meant it, and George and Hank and Bruce were there. They remembered me, and they said, "Hey, you're back. Okay, hey, you got a wrist on your arm. All right, cool. And you got a band on your arm." And so I started listening, and I got a temporary sponsor. I still had the big book I got for free, a couple years before that, and my wife gave it back to me. She said she was going to throw it away because it didn't work, but she gave it back to me after I went to rehab. And she was the only person I called in rehab. I didn't know who else to call, right? So I called her and asked her if she wanted to come, and she came, and she was pissed off, right? Because now I wasn't giving her any money because I was in rehab, and but that wasn't why she was pissed off. She was just pissed off because of the situation I was in. And then, and I think she realized I was at my lowest point there, and she realized that I did want help, and so she wrote me a little letter that I read later. I still have it. And that was hope also. That was hope that we could get back together and mend that relationship that I had fucked up. And it worked. I went through 2 weeks of that, got out, went to meetings as many as I could, got a new sponsor after that temporary sponsor, worked the steps in about 9 months. These things saved my life. That big book saved my life. That 12 and 12 saved my life. The daily reflections, as Bob sees it. All those books I try to read, not on a daily basis, but I read them when I feel I am a little bit spiritually unconnected. The biggest thing for me is maintaining that spiritual connection through Alcoholics Anonymous. Period. I could come to meetings all day, but I need to sit down with the meditation and the prayer. There's 2 prayers that I say throughout the day. One is, God, in the morning, please give me the strength and courage to not drink today. The strength and courage not to pick up. And please relieve me of the obsession to drink. And that's my connection first thing in the morning. That gets a spark going. And then at lunchtime I go out and I sit in the car and I ask the same thing. And I do not have the obsession to drink, only because I maintain that connection. And I hear old timers and people say, "Fuck you, I've always got the obsession to drink." But it doesn't happen. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody's program is the same. I love to come to this meeting and heckle and all the fun stuff, but then there's also meetings where you need to go to and really pay attention, and it's a different crowd. And I love to go to different meetings. I love going to mixed meetings. I love doing things outside of AA with other AA people. I've met so many friends inside of AA. Just blessings of people, and I'm doing things today I never thought I would do. I'm blessed with a wife that she's still crazy, but she's not crazy because of me. Exactly. But my wife and kids are so much calmer now because they don't have to worry about where's Dad. Is he sleeping in the car again? Is he sleeping in the park? Where's he at? Is he still at a bar? Is he trying to drive home? They can live their life now, the way they need to live it. And I don't need to be a part of their life, and I stay out of their problems unless they ask me. I don't give information unless somebody asks me for it. I try not to. And then we all know we try not to be a dick today, right? We try not to be a dick. One thing I remember is somebody telling me, if you're going to say something, number one, think about it. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said now by you? And by the time I get to that third one, I don't need to say it. I've thought it through, and I really don't need to say it because it's usually stupid. It has no meaning on your life or mine, and it's just going to piss you off. But man, what a journey! What a journey from that day I walked into Las Encinas, and where I'm at today. I don't know how to explain it, but this program has given me so much, and it's taken away so much. You know, I don't have to sleep in my car. My wife doesn't kick me out of the house anymore. She doesn't yell at me. You know, we talk things over. My daughters don't cry in front of me now because of something I did. My neighbors don't walk back inside when I walk outside. You know, I haven't had the police at my house in 9 years. You know, it's just so freaking cool. And if you're new, or you've been here a while and you're disconnected, man, get connected. Find that person that you can connect with. Find that group of guys you can trudge with. Patrick, thank you for trudging with me, man. We've been trudging since I came in here, and I pick Patrick up every Wednesday. And if I didn't pick him up, I probably wouldn't come to the meeting a lot of times. So he's a big part of my sobriety. We have a lot of fun together, bingo and things like that. And I hang around with some other guys outside the rooms and bingo, yeah. And that's what we need to do. We need to find that group we can hang with. You know, you guys back there in the half measures table, I love razzing you guys, but you guys are solid, man. You know, yeah, you guys are solid, believe me. I respect you guys and I look up to you. But 9 years is 4.5 for you guys, okay? So, since you're only half. But, yeah, that's in half measures years. But I love you guys, man. I just respect the fact that, and that's what we need to do, is hang around as a group and things like that. So I love you guys. I will continue to come here as long as I can make it, and I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks,
I forgot to